Hello there and welcome to the shop. So in today's video we're going to do quite a few things. We're going to tune Mark III into this newly finished CNC router. So we're going to check the steps allocated to the motors and drivers, and we're also going to set the soft limits, and then we're going to probe the surface of the table and find out how much needs to be skimmed off, the minimal amount that needs to be skimmed off to make this perfectly flat. But before we can actually skim this flat, we have to tram the spindle. That isn't that complicated. All you really need is a DTI gauge. Now these are very handy, they're not that expensive. Now a DTI gauge normally comes on what they call a mag mount, like this, and this arm comes in two pieces, a big spring clip, and it's mounted on here. Well, you can very easily use this to do all the measurements that I've just mentioned, as in seeing how flat the table is, and also to, more importantly, tram the spindle to make sure it's absolutely square to the table and the gantry and everything else. If they're not trammed correctly, and you're going to try and skim this flat, or any piece of material flat for that matter. Now I use a big 2-inch flat cutter like that. Now if it's angled slightly, even if it's just a couple of thousandths of an inch, you're going to leave like a tapered cut all the way through your work. Not recommended. So we're going to set all that up correctly, and then last we're going to skim the table flat. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just take the head or the axes somewhere closer to the homing switches. Otherwise we'd be waiting 10 minutes for it to get there. Okay, here we go. Somewhere near. Okay, let's ref all. Okay, then turn the soft limits on. Okay, so now it's homed. I'm going to take a measurement now off the side of the Z-axis backplate here to see how much travel I have. Absolute travel is 843, which is nearly 33¼ inches. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to see whether the steps that I've put in for the stepper motors is accurate, because the longer travel that you can use and check to see whether the DROs in Mark III are registering the same as the actual travel, the better. Doing it over 50 millimeters or even, sort of a foot is okay, but the longer travel you can do it over, the more accurate you can get the steps. So in Mach 3 I'm going to set this at 835. And incidentally, even with this new screen, it's done exactly the same way. So it's up to config, open and limits, and you can see there I've put 835 in there for the x-axis. Now I've got the soft limits turned on, so all I'm going to do is press shift for 100% movement of the axes, and well, we'll soon find out whether it's reading true. That seems to be reading quite well, actually. What do we got there? We've got about 8mm, is that? And that would indicate that it's actually reading perfectly. In actual fact, I think I can squeeze a few more millimeters out of that, so I'm just going to back it off a little. I'm just going to go into config, home and limits. I'm going to squeeze a couple more millimeters out of that. So I'm going to go 838.0 and press enter. Okay, that just gives me a couple more millimeters. It might come in useful. Okay, let's test that. I think that's just fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. I'm happy with that. That's pretty well maximum travel there. Alright, so I've set the DTI gauge up in the spindle, tightened it up. So I'm just going to fetch this down now and take it down further about 1mm past zero. And then I can probe the whole bed to find out, well, the high spots and the low spots. So I've altered the jog setting to 1%, which is a nice manageable speed. So take it down. That's close enough to zero, I think. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is change the machine coordinates to the job offset, and I'm going to zero them all. It doesn't really matter. We're only concentrating on the Z0. So the Z is 0, and also we've zeroed the DTI gauge. And reading the figures off here, we can tell exactly what part is high and what part is low. Incidentally, to alter the jog setting, you come here to plus or minus a jog setting, or you can highlight this and write in, whatever percentage you require. I find this very convenient. It's all on one screen with this screen set. Okay, so let's probe around the table. Okay, so take your time doing this. So we lift up. So the DTI gauge is clear. We don't want to damage our DTI gauge. And about the center there, and then we'll drop it down till our gauge reads pretty well 0. I mean, you know, that's within half a thou, or less than half a thou there. And I'll just bring you up onto the screen and show you how much it's out. So this one, as you can see, is 0.45. That's nearly half a millimeter high. So I'm going to probe all the way around this table now, on each individual section in 3 different areas. So it's, you know, it's going to take half an hour. So I'll get back to you with the total results. Okay, so I don't know whether it's too much light there, probably. Yes. Okay, the results are in, and let me see, over this side of the table here, this particular one is half a millimeter high compared to the 0 here. This actual fact is this in actual fact is the lowest point of the table, but there are a couple of areas, like on this one here, this is 0, 0 and plus 0.1 back there, so this is fairly flat. This end here is 0.4 high, 0 and 0.2, so there's a bit of a dip in that one. We're talking small numbers here, really. So what it's actually telling me is to get down to the 0 position here, we have to skim off exactly half a millimeter, which is, you know, 0.5. So what I'll probably do to make sure that I do get everything, because there might be areas that where I haven't probed in between here, maybe a little lower, but I don't think so. I'll take it down 0.6 or 0.7 of a millimeter. I don't think it's worth going any further. I don't want to take too much meat off, you know, the tie down areas. But the way I've made this bed, it's very easy to replace these, you know. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, until we get the spindle trammed, you know, we can't machine this down flat, because you know, I have only put that into tram just with a T-square, and it's not good enough. Okay, so that's the next thing. But what I personally use in conjunction with that DTI gauge is a granite slab. I acquired a couple of granite slabs some years ago, and they've come in very useful. They are extremely flat. That's why people use them.